This is the Hot Take Hockey Podcast with your hosts, Lucas and John Viveiros.
Hey everyone, we're back with the Hot Take Hockey Podcast. Myself, John, with the legend Lucas, and we'll see what Lucas is saying because he just got back from a big New York trip, so we'll ask him about it. But episode 19, we're almost at 20. We've talked about that big 20 mark, so we'll go over a couple trades that happened today. We'll talk about World Cup. We've got a big guest, Auddie James, huge respects. But Lucas, man, we'll go over a bunch of stuff here. You got to start it off. Give us the deets on your trip. I know you were there for a few days, saw the Leafs versus the Rangers, MSG. How was the trip, man?
Man, it was awesome. I mean, being in New York around Christmas time, I know there's always like the buzz to it that people say it is, but it really is like, you know, that hype. I mean, New York, it's just the spot to be at Christmas. Costs a little bit of a pretty penny, but it was worth it. It was worth it, man. MSG was dope. Like I was telling you before we got on air, we did a tour beforehand, before the game. And you got to go all over the arena, but some highlights, some high level stuff. I mean, when you walk in the concourse, essentially they have all these moments, these great MSG moments that have happened in there, such as like Kobe Bryant scored 61 points. At the time, it was a record for him. A lot of MMA highlights in there. Just so many cool, all over different sports that were called out in there. As far as the game goes, you know, the atmosphere really is electric, man. Like I'm telling you, the anthems are louder than Scotiabank Arena. Just the Canadian anthem is louder than anything you hear in Scotiabank. I'm not trying to dog on the Leafs Arena, but it is just the facts.
Yeah.
And then you know, it was good to see Michael Bunting extend that point streak to 10 games. Obviously, we saw Marner's fall off, and the Leafs ended up losing the game.
Yeah.
But yeah, another thing too, John. I haven't told you this yet, but I don't think I have. At least there was 3 Maple Leafs, either wives, girlfriends, fiancés sitting right next to me and Natasha, my girlfriend.
Wow. Jeez.
So Tash called it out when they walked in and goes, I think those might be like hockey wives. I'm like, all right, like, you know, like who knows, right? Anyways, they left in like the intermission and she had looked it up. She had gone to like certain players' pages and we saw like it was Marner's wife or fiance, Justin Hall's wife and Kerfoot's wife.
Okay,
and they were buzzing though. They were having a good time with us. It was good. You know, being the Leaf energy in the building. And Kerfoot, he drew a penalty in the third. And I stood up and was like, "Attaboy, Kerfy!" And she got hyped.
That's sick.
His wife got hyped. So it was cool, man. It was cool. Overall, great experience. Fortunately, the Buds didn't take the W, but it was awesome.
Yeah, man, that's dope. And yeah, I think in general, I think a lot of people realize like New York it's a different, like it's so cool in general, but like around Christmas time is a different type of cool. And everyone I talk to that goes to New York around Christmas time says it's like a different level. So
yeah, man,
I got to do that. I got to make it happen.
Tasha's aunt and uncle, they go every year. Like,
wow.
I don't know if I could do that. I mean, when I was leaving yesterday out of the city, I was like, I think I've had enough, you know, like it's a lot, especially just the crowds and hordes of people. Like I'm okay with it for a handful of days, but then I like my own space a little bit. And so it started to get to me near the end where I'm like, I don't want to be surrounded by thousands and thousands of people anymore. But yeah, I mean, you got to do it. You definitely got to do it. Find some time. You know, you're a handful of years younger than me, so you got tons of time.
Yeah. But that's sick, man, honestly. And it's good to have you back in time for the pod here. So let's just rip through a few things quickly and we'll just go over all the latest news and everything. So 2 trades happening today as we're making this video or recording for the podcast. And of course, if you're watching it, maybe it's a video. But so the Toronto Maple Leafs made a trade. Both trades pretty minor, but creative in the sense that we saw a 3-way deal. But starting off with the Leafs trade. So Dennis Malgin, that experiment is over. Dennis Malgin to the Colorado Avalanche in exchange for Dryden Hunt. So 2 very different type of players. Malgin, undersized, 5'9", kind of skill, kind of creating chances for himself, kind of possession-based, where you see Dryden Hunt, I think he's 6 foot flat, checker, kind of defensive player. So I think when you look at the Leafs and Kyle Dubas, and I think a lot of people will see this move and be like, okay, this is not a Dubas-type move to trade the possession-based guy to get a checking guy that's kind of just doesn't have too many offensive numbers in the NHL. But Lucas, man, let's chat about it just quickly. Minor deal. Obviously, everyone's going to look at this being like, oh, you traded Mason Marchment for Dennis Malgin, and now it's Dryden Hunt, who the Avalanche just claimed off waivers this year the Avalanche claimed off waivers from the Rangers. But What do you think, man? Minor trade, but yeah, I guess trying to add a little bit of that edge, I guess, on that fourth line. Or depth.
I guess eventually too, you do got to bury the hatchet and not think of it as like the Marchment Tide thing. It's just like similar to the Kadri deal, right? We can't always blame Kerfoot for it. So in this scenario, I think that, like you said, you brought up a really good point there. It seems Undubas-like, right, to make a deal like this, like a more skilled, smaller guy for, I don't know. I think Dryden Hunt is we know really what his ceiling is as a bottom six guy, and he doesn't really bring much up from an offensive standpoint. But as much as Malgin, we look at this guy that has the higher ceiling. It's just wild when you watch him. You see these sparks of like, this guy could be something, but it never really shows on the scoreboard. And I saw this crazy stat from Michael Amato that Dennis Malgin went 12 games without a point playing alongside Tavares and Marner during the streak. So if he's going pointless when Marner and Tavares are on fire, particularly Marner, but that line was humming and he's got nothing on the board for 12 games, I think, that was pretty much the telltale sign that it wasn't going to work. And that was really the only spot for him, right? They weren't really giving him.
And it specifically killed his spot here when Yarncrow was coming back, and Yarncrow should be playing as we record tomorrow night. So that like just completely solidified it. Yeah, I mean, you bring in Dryden Hunt, and like, I hate to have this basic analysis here, but he's basically like an Aston Reese. Like, you're bringing in a guy, defensive guy. He might put up a couple goals every 10, 20 games. But outside of that, you're more so just bringing a guy that's probably just going to be a filler for shifts until the Stars are ready to go again. Be physical. We've seen him drop the gloves a couple times. Just an energy guy. That's what I would say about Dryden Hunt. Just an energy guy, 27, kind of been a journeyman a little bit, but energy guy. So I think when the Leafs are fully healthy, and I actually saw someone tweet this out as well, is sorry that I can't give them a show because I forget who it was, but it was like, when both these teams are healthy, neither of these guys are in the lineup, right?
And they don't make an impact. Both of them aren't expected to be impact players. So
no. So when the Avs are healthy, I mean, Malgin will play right now because the Avs are not healthy. So there you go. Malgin will get his chance with the Avs, and Hunt might play some games with the Leafs. Just we'll see. I could see him on that fourth line and it being maybe a fourth line of like an Aston Reese, Kampf, and Dryden Hunt. So I don't mind it. I mean, for me, like I said, it was just a disappointing and it was a shitty scenario to begin with, because obviously I think if hindsight is big time here, but it's like Marchment would have been a great fit for the Leafs in terms of like third line checker, put up some depth scoring, which the Leafs have had a problem with this year at times. So yeah, you know what? You can't look at it that way. I think Dryden Hunt's a fine addition on depth. He definitely contributes more in terms of possession, in terms of like, I would say cycle work than Simmons does consistently, and brings that edge a little bit. So it's like, if they have a certain matchup where they still want to match that edge, but also have more of a cycle game with that fourth line, Dryden Hunt's your guy. And then, of course, you still have Simmer if you want to guarantee dropping the gloves on the game. But, just quickly, I mean, again, I don't think that warrants too much more conversation, but you're fine with it as a Leafs perspective?
Yeah, I'm cool with it. I mean, I think the Avalanche obviously have the higher upside to the trade, but as I think the Leafs gave him his opportunity, hasn't really worked out. So as a Leafs fan, from the Leafs point of view, I think it's cool to try Dryden Hunt in the bottom six, see what he can bring, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so just quickly, the three-way deal. So we'll just quickly discuss it here. So to me, it was confusing for a second just in terms of like fit, but I mean, it's whatever at this point. So I think Del Zotto went from the Panthers to the Red Wings in exchange for Giovanni Smith. And then it was basically a secondary part of the deal. So basically it ended up being a three-way deal. So then Michael Del Zotto went from the Panthers to the Red Wings, and then the Red Wings flipped him to the Ducks in exchange for Danny O'Regan, who's just been kind of a minor league player. So Giovanni Smith might be a depth piece for the Panthers when they need it. I know they've Barkov injury and stuff like that. Del Zotto, I mean, the Ducks brought another defenseman, so he might just be a depth piece. Especially, I mean, I would just look at it as also like, I'm sure the Ducks will trade a couple defensemen, whether it's Shattenkirk, Klingberg at the deadline. So I mean, Del Zotto will just be a filler probably at that point as well.
Yeah, I think that's really what it is. He'll come up, he'll be a contributing piece for them once they move some bodies out. And Del Zotto, obviously, 2019 Stanley Cup champ with the Blues, buddy. But
Is there anything else to discuss on that deal? It's so minor. It's more minor than the Leafs and Avalanche deal, but it's just creative because it's a 3-way deal.
Yeah, I think that's why it has the headlines, because it's a 3-way. Del Zotto is just an interesting player, because I always, playing the NHL games back in the day, he was always such a great piece to build your team around, as funny as it is, like with the potential that he had.
Yeah,
back then. And he was he had some solid seasons early on, but I think, like you said, it is a minor deal, and I don't think anyone's going to make out like a bandit on this one.
No, yeah. Giovanni Smith might be a little bit of a wild card for maybe getting time with the Panthers, like I said, through injuries. But outside of that, not too much to discuss. But just quickly, man, World Cup chat before we go and get into some more hockey conversation. We're going to bring in Auddie James here in a couple minutes. But just quick World Cup chat to transition into Auddie chat. Man, Messi. Messi with the trophy. Are you down bad? Here's my thing. Portuguese supporters, Ronaldo supporters, I wasn't down bad because it's exactly what I expected. I threw money on it after the Netherlands game, man. I knew it was going to happen. I know we chatted about this, man. How are you feeling?
I'm so down bad, bro. I am so down bad. I really hope a lot of my close friends don't see this. I'm so down bad, man. Like, I really, really thought after that Saudi game early on that Argentina had no business. There was
a lot of games they seemed like frauds, especially in that Australia game.
Yeah,
like,
man.
They barely got past Australia.
And the Dutch game, they barely got past. They choked that one. I mean, even this one, even the final, they bottled at the end of the 90 minutes. Like, dude, I'll be honest with you. I didn't watch the game, which is a shame, because I am hearing this. Like, I didn't watch the game fully. This is arguably the best final of all time in sports, right?
Yeah, it was crazy.
And I was walking up and down the streets in New York, and when Argentina went up 2-0, I was like, all right, it's over, right? It's over. And I checked, I figured there was about 10, 12 minutes left. I'm like, might as well check my phone to see where we're at in this game. Messi's about to lift the trophy, and Mbappe had tied it at 2-2.
Yeah.
And I was on the streets just, anyways, to make a long story short, my experience in New York, as soon as Argentina won and that final whistle blew, there was Argentina parades all over New York, flags, everything. And I was just sitting there down bad going, how is this going to spin where it's going to turn into a day of just bashing my idol, Cristiano? And that's what I ended up seeing on my algorithms.
Yeah.
And I just want to say out here that Ron is still my GOAT. That's all.
Wow. Here's what I'll say. I think I've always just and this is not even, my opinion hasn't really changed much, because I've always kind of just separated the two. It's just to me, they're both GOATs in different ways. I just hate the fact that Ronaldo's being bashed in certain directions. It's bro, everyone wants to have certain storylines and talk about certain things, social media, mental health, all these things. Do you see what Ronaldo's gone through the last year?
Yeah.
Why does it have to be oh, Messi won, so let's bash Ronaldo? To me, it's not even the same conversation, because again, the guy is 2 or almost 3 years older than Messi.
Yeah. People forget
the fact that it's a direct comparison. Talk to me when Messi is Ronaldo's age.
Yeah.
He might still be as good, but look what Ronaldo's done, man. As recent as last year with Man U. Again, I hate the direct comparison, because it's like when people compare Matthews and Draisaitl. It's they're a couple years apart, man. You can't have this direct comparison especially when you're in your late 30s. 35 to 38 is a massive difference. Massive.
It's true, man. I will say, I do want to make this point clear, though. I recognize my bias in Portuguese. Messi is my number 2 now. And I do want to say,
now, who was number 2 before?
Well, Pelé, I don't know. It was up for debate, but Messi's concrete my number 2. But the thing is, like you said, we shouldn't even have to talk about that. Messi as a whole, man, he really cemented himself as an all-timer, forever. After this tournament, after that game, man, this guy, I can't even believe some of the shit that he's doing in the midfield. Even the pass before the assist, oh my God, man. He is a marvel to watch. I really get it. I get why people really gravitate towards him, and I'm happy for him. I really am happy for him. And I think he should go out like this. I think he's already spoken, saying that he's not going to retire from international football yet. I think this would have been the perfect way to just say, put your hands up and walk out and walk out on top. Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think that goes back to like what I just said about the age thing. I think he feels
Yeah.
like he has levels to like for a couple more years versus like Ronaldo was at the point where he's at the age is like, if I won the World Cup, I'd be done.
Yeah.
You know what, man? I think it's tough. I really think the whole balance of like the team rallying for Ronaldo versus like Ronaldo playing that full game against Morocco, like it was a balance. To me, I have a little bit of resentment towards Santos handling it because it's like at the point of early on in the game, you realize how it's going. Like it should have been, I don't know, just the Switzerland one was different, man. Like Ramos took it over, and then you obviously run with that. But I think the Morocco game just showed it was different, and it sucks.
Yeah, and I think what can't be lost in this too is obviously Mbappe's play in the final, like unbelievable.
He's not
man.
even allowing like the baton to be handed over, man. This guy's on a crazy level. He's on a
man.
That was the craziest sporting game I've ever seen, I think, ever. Especially on the stage that it was in the final. And that's why everyone's like, the script. But I mean,
it was the perfect, like, if you sim the game.
You couldn't have got a better final.
If you sim that game in like FIFA 23, like that's what you're hoping comes out, right? Like it was just like, it did not feel real. I mean, it was basically
Messi scored the goal at extra time, and then Mbappe tying it.
It was the second best thing the football world could have got, with the exception of it being Ronaldo Messi, right? Yeah. That was literally the second best thing.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
Exactly, 100%.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's transition this World Cup chat back into hockey chat. We'll talk about some of the recent storylines, but also talk Western Conference with the legend Auddie James. We'll ask him who are the frauds in that Pacific Division. Let's bring on the legend Auddie James. Welcome to the Hot Take Hockey Podcast, the absolute legend. I actually just was on the SDPN Game Over Flames, and we were recapping the Flames Canucks. But Auddie, this is my cousin Lucas. Thanks for coming on, man. How you doing?
Lucas, John, how you doing, boys? It's good to be here. I've been looking forward to this one. You kind of planted the seed a while ago, and here we are. It's good to be here.
Yeah, I know we briefly chatted about it. You got the Italia in the back, but World Cup, did you follow it? We were just kind of talking about it, and did you watch that final?
Oh man, it was hard not to. I watched the latter part of the extra time, and then obviously the penalties, which I don't know why gold medal games or any kind of meaningful game ends in a penalty or a shootout or whatever. It's brutal, but apparently the soccer tradition or football traditionalists love it. But whatever, it is what it is. It was good though. It's good to see Messi get his get his World Cup, and I think that kind of ends the Messi Ronaldo debate. What do you boys think?
Yeah, so this is where it comes interesting. So I think I'm the mediator here. Like I'm more of the voice of reason, but so we are Portuguese, and we were actually just talking about it. So I've kind of been always fair and just saying like it's the same thing as like any conversation around sports, like LeBron versus MJ or like Crosby versus Ovi. Like I just think the respects always needs to be thrown.
Oh yeah.
I also we also did discuss, Auddie, and I'm sure you see it all the time around the hockey world. It's like I hate these debates between two players that are just like far out in age. So like the Draisaitl-Matthews debates always drive me nuts because it's like, what are we talking about here? Like there is like, so Matthews 2 or 3 years younger, and we're having direct comparisons. Like I just think the Ronaldo versus Messi debate over their careers has been fun. It's been so good. But like the fact that Ronaldo's 38 now and Messi's 35, I mean, if they're both 35, I think we would have seen both of those guys shining. I'm not making an excuse as a Portuguese, but
no, listen, full transparency. I am not the biggest football guy. Yeah. I follow when I need to. I don't really like support anybody. I guess like I was born into a Roma kind of family, obviously being Italian. So I I don't follow it per se, but I fully agree though, because like the sooner that the casual sports fan or sports fans of, like you said, Ovi and Sid or whatever Draisaitl and Matthews apparently is a thing, the sooner everybody can just appreciate the greatness, the better it's going to be. Like just appreciate how good these guys are, and you get to live in that, man. Like we're going to see it hasn't really fully sunk into me. Like I'm 26 years old. I didn't see Gretzky play, but I'm going to see Ovi smash his record, and I can't, I can't wait for that. Like we got to just appreciate moments like that, man.
And you're going to
Absolutely.
continue seeing McDavid play against the Flames the next 10, 15 years.
Unfortunately, yeah. Unfortunately.
But you got to appreciate it, right?
You know what? It's true though. You as much as I give a hard time to my friends up the highway here, you just got to sit back and watch, man, because like you don't realize like people like this don't come around all the time. Yeah. Just appreciate how damn good you have it to be able to watch these guys and see what they do, like perfect their craft and be at the top of their game. Just sit back and enjoy it, man. That's all you got to do. And it's not easy for some people to put the fandom of like your team aside, but the sooner everybody can come to terms with just like how good these players are, the easier it's going to be, man. That's it.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head right there, because when I was watching the ceremony at the end, my bias was creeping in and just going like, damn, like I would love to see Ronaldo going through this right now. Like that was the emotion I was getting, but I was trying to stop that and really just think, man, I'm so happy for for Messi, right? Like he's put in all these years for Argentina. It's finally happened for him. This is probably the biggest moment for him in his career. And you know, as far as the GOAT debate goes, yeah, he'll always have that trophy that Ronaldo doesn't. So that'll always be a little thing in his armor that people can use. But like you said, I think we should focus more so on the greatness that both of them are, the greatness that in hockey.
Yeah, it goes around for all sports.
Ovechkin, all of them. Yeah.
And that's how, and it would have been for me too, if, you know, obviously the Oilers went on a bit of a run last year after they put the Flames out. I mean, that playoff series against Colorado was not great for them, but you know, had they advanced, it would have been pretty hard for me as like a fan of the game to not be in McDavid's corner, right? Like we've seen the Lightning win, they're great, but like that's what everybody discusses when they talk about Connor McDavid is he just needs that Stanley Cup. He's done everything else, but he hasn't won that cup. It's hard to not root for the guy, you know, even if you support, you know, who you support. It's hard to not support the legacy, if that makes sense,
and the greats of the game, whichever
that's
game.
That's it.
Yeah, I think it goes across the board too. Like even as like Canadian teams, I don't think I would ever do or say this for Montreal, but even like back in 2017, just like Erik Karlsson, like seeing Ottawa go on that run. Like as a Leaf fan, I don't know if I love saying that, but I mean, yeah, there's certain storylines and certain players that you kind of have to root for. But Auddie, just again, welcome to the pod, man.
Thank you.
I appreciate you coming on.
I'm excited.
For the people that don't know, we know you're a legend on the SDPN network. You do some play-by-play. You got a lot going on. So for the viewers, we'll let you plug yourself at the end as well. But just what are you up to these days, man? Let the viewers know what you're up to.
It's been busy because, like, you know, obviously you and I connected back when I was making YouTube videos, and that was kind of, you know, you and I talked about it at the end of Game Over there. Just like, it's good to see all these, you know, you doing good things. Clay's with SDPN now as well. Cannot Clay. You know, Geo, all these good YouTubers. Grav is doing good things with Sportsnet. You know, it's good. It's good to see that the good people are succeeding and the good people are doing well. And you know, post YouTube, it's been busy. It's been real busy. I've been on a couple. I've hosted a couple podcasts. I'm obviously with SDPN now doing the post game show for the Calgary Flames, doing play-by-play in the AJHL for the Drumheller Dragons. Yeah, man, life's busy. It's crazy how quick things come at you. I'm getting married in September. It's busy times, man. It's damn busy. So to put it lightly and to kind of roundabout answer your question, I'm doing a lot of things. I'm doing a lot of things both in the media realm and in the personal life.
What I'm hearing is 2023 could be a big year. Calgary Flames, Stanley Cup, and Auddie James getting married.
Oh,
I don't know, boy, buddy. I don't know if it's going to be a Calgary Flames Stanley Cup, but the wedding will definitely happen. Well, that'll for sure happen. But well, I'm not sure about that cup though.
Yeah, man. We were talking about the Flames a little bit before you hopped on, and I was saying, wow, Auddie seems like he's got a lot going for him. But these Flames, man, it's just been up and down. Maybe they're going to figure this out soon. What's your read on the last few weeks? It seems like things are going a bit better now, but what are your reads on, you know, just Jacob Markstrom's play throughout the season and the Flames as a whole with their new additions?
It's tough, man, because it's taken a lot of these guys, you know, let's not forget just how crazy this offseason was for Calgary and all the leaps and bounds that Brad Treliving had to jump through to make this team competitive. A lot of fans were screaming rebuild, When Gaudreau said he was going to go test free agency, and we all get that inevitable tweet from Friedman saying he's going to Columbus. He's going to Columbus. A lot of people were like, okay, at least there's still Tkachuk. We still got a hope in hell. This guy's he's gonna come out and be like, you know what? I'll put this team on my shoulders, and this is gonna be my team. He's gonna get to see. And you find out he requests a trade, and it's like, damn, may as well just throw everything out and start rebuilding. But full credit to Brad Treliving for keeping the team competitive. Long-winded answer to say the Calgary Flames have definitely struggled. This is their first win last night since December 7th. So it's been a rough December for them. They've had some cold spells where they've lost 7 in a row. They just came off a 5-game losing streak before beating the Sharks last night. And what I'm finding with this team is a lot of people like to use Markstrom as the whipping boy, and you know what? He'll be the first to admit to you that he hasn't been the best version of himself yet. But when Markstrom's playing well, the rest of the team isn't. He's getting no run support. When the rest of the team is, he can't make that extra save. So it's kind of finding that balance right now. Kind of everybody needs to come together and click instead of being, putting up 5 goals and your goalie can't stop a beach ball, or vice versa. He's stopping everything and you can't get run support at the other end. So I think it's just going to be a combination of things that need to click.
Yeah, we've been kind of talking about the overall Pacific Division and like certain teams disappointing, and obviously the Oilers and Flames have been in that conversation, and definitely the Vancouver Canucks, but that's just been a whole other shit show.
Tire fire.
Who for you? And like I feel like Vegas has got to be taken out of this conversation because I feel like they're just legit at this point. I can't see them falling off.
No.
But outside of that, who are your legit teams that are like, okay, you know what? They've gone through their spells. They'll turn it around. So who's like your legit team or legit teams? And who are your frauds in the Pacific Division?
Oh, geez. Man, I'd hate to, like, I think the Calgary Flames are going to turn it around, and that's not even just the bias in me. I think that they can be legit. Like I said, that winning recipe, if everything clicks together, that's a fun team. If they can play in the third period like they did last night, every game, that's a scary team in the Pacific Division. I would say the Kraken are frauds, but I feel like they're just not. Like I feel like things are going well for Seattle, and I actually, I like to see it.
I think everyone's waiting for them to be frauds, but they keep going.
Yeah, that's the best way to put it. Is like, you kind of think that, this is going to fall off one of these days, yeah. But it doesn't. The Kings, I think there's potential for some fraud in there. Like I'm looking at the standings right now. The Flames are only 5 points back. That's the problem with the Pacific Division. It's so tight, I know. Right? Aside from Vegas, it's so damn tight.
And that's the thing, right? If you put the Oilers and Flames in, then you are taking those Kings and Kraken out potentially.
Exactly. And like, that's the craziest part. This Pacific Division's been like this all like year after year. It's just so tight. It's not the best division. Anybody can really come out of it. I don't really know if there's many more frauds because the California teams, aside from LA, they stink. And the Canucks are just, like you said, a tire fire. So,
yeah. Lucas, we've talked about the Canucks a lot. I feel like at times this podcast has become kind of a Canucks. It's been such a disaster.
The Canucks roast.
Yeah, well, or just a Canucks discussion because there's just always news churning out of there. But LA is just always the fascinating one for me because I always am waiting for them to fall off, but they still somehow manage to stay in there even with this like shoddy goaltending. It's like if they can just get like 905, they're a playoff team. Like Jonathan Quick is just not the answer anymore. I don't know how they can keep trotting him out there. So that's an interesting one to watch for me. But Seattle, we were always touching on them too on the pod, and they're one of those teams similar to New Jersey in the way that since they've built this bank of points, it's like for them to fall out, they're going to have to just go on a crazy losing streak, right? And I don't see it right now, but it's all going to depend on if these Alberta teams can really get their juices going.
And I think both of them can. As much as it pains me to say, I think the Oilers can figure it out. They're a scary team. Two of the best players in the world, night in, night out. Lighten up the score sheet, lighten up this province, making us Flames fans all pissy down here. But both Alberta teams, the Flames and the Oilers, have what it takes, and I think they can both turn it around, and I think they both will.
Yeah, I think both of them will probably figure it out, and I mean, hopefully even it out to the sense where maybe we do get a wild card team out of that Pacific. But yeah, Auddie, I mean, reaching out to you today, man. I would love to have these like Auddie segments every couple of months and just get you as the Pacific representative. But just quickly here, we're gonna get more into that trade deadline conversation. We're getting into the holidays, so once the new year kind of comes and goes, the trade deadline chat will even heat up even more. But just quickly, in your perspective, whether it's a fan perspective or just kind of what you're seeing, if there's one move the Calgary Flames can make, or one move you want to see them make prior to that deadline in any direction, do you have kind of a pick or mindset on that?
Well, they need scoring. Up until the third period last night, the Calgary Flames, I think I said it to you, it's just very Flamesy hockey. It's Daryl Sutter hockey. It's experience, low event hockey. It's all the Calgary Flames have been playing up to this point. Mind you, they were playing a much lesser opponent last night in San Jose, and they found their scoring in the third period. But there's been a desperate need for a scoring winger on this team ever since the start of this year, and they went on that first 7-game skid. They could not finish. They still kind of struggle to finish. I think it could be a scoring winger. It could be another defenseman with all these injuries. Zadorov didn't skate today. Gilbert didn't skate today. Tanev is kind of back, so the Flames are experiencing some hiccups with the injury bug. But I think first and foremost, it's a scoring winger. But those, as you boys know, those don't grow on trees, and they're not very cheap to acquire. So it would take some pretty tricky GMing from Brad Treliving to navigate something like that.
Yeah, and I think Kyle Dubas is going to be in the market for one of those, hopefully, as we approach the trade deadline as well.
Hopefully Kyle Dubas is in the market to come to Calgary once his contract is up. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I was also going to say, I mean, we're seeing Lucic, and I saw it today, on a line with Kadri and Mangiapane. Would you make that direct switch to have him attached with maybe a pick and prospect and get Besser on that wing?
I would do anything to have Milan Lucic out of the top 6. I would do anything to have Milan Lucic, aside from last night, does 6 to 7 minutes of cardio every single night, and that's about it. So, yeah, it's I would do just about anything. And all due respect, Lucic was a pretty effective player back in the day, 2011 Cup. He parked his ass in front of the net and scored a lot of garbage goals that way. But he's just past his prime now. He doesn't do a whole heck of a lot out there.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I think once the contract's done here, and just he'll probably be one of those like the Wayne Simmons contract, like $800K for a couple of years, just for a team's kind of fourth line. But yeah, Auddie, man, I want to get some more Auddie segments on the pod over these, and just
have me on whenever. I'm telling you, whenever.
So man, just tell the peeps, because I've been listening more. I've been following along. Game Over Calgary is the place to be for some Auddie James content as well. So just tell the viewers and listeners where they can find you.
Yeah, man. Game Over Calgary is my main spot right now. I'm working on a couple other smaller projects right now that'll take some flight probably in the new year. But for right now, all of the Flames content from my end will come from Game Over Calgary post game on the SDPN Sports YouTube channel. And you can follow me on Twitter for all your lovely Flames news and banter at Auddie James. So looking forward to seeing you guys in the Game Over chats.
Let's go, man. Well,
let's go,
baby.
From Lucas
let's
and
go.
myself, bro, we really appreciate it. And we got to mix in some more of these. And I know we chatted about maybe me hopping on again for some
yes,
chat. So
absolutely. Anytime, fellas.
All right, bro. We'll do this again soon. Thank you so much for coming on.
Take care, boys.
Thanks, man.
Thank you so much to Auddie James, an absolute legend. Make sure you guys go hit him up with the follow. But just kind of wrap with the chat in the pod. Lucas, just recent news. So Flyers, they've kind of been a storyline all year. Torts is getting frustrated. Kevin Hayes, who's been one of the better scorers and contributors for the Flyers, healthy scratch on the weekend, so maybe something behind the scenes. But Atkinson, man, tough news, out for the year. What's kind of been your vibe on the Flyers? Do you think, like, because Torts is always like, he'll always have his teams in some contention or like some kind of like conversation, but it's like the situation with this team, like they should be, I don't want to say tanking, but because I don't think Torts will ever like just take up a tank, but like, what are you thinking, man? Because it's such a like, I don't know, it's such a back and forth thing, because like Flyers fans want the tank, but you have John Tortorella as your coach. Like, it's just not going to happen.
I know. He's going to keep them somewhat competitive like we thought, but man, like he just doesn't have a lot to work with. Right. So like it's only it's only a matter of time before this was going to happen and they were going to start seeing themselves near the bottom. It's crazy how hot they started, right?
Yeah.
But it also seems like every year the Flyers have these big injuries where guys are out for the season, which sucks. Like Couturier last year.
Couturier is still absent.
Couturier is still out. Yeah, Atkinson now. I mean, these are the big pieces and veteran pieces of the team. So, you know, it is what it is for the Flyers. I think the best thing for them, whether Tortorella likes it or not, is to tank. And so we'll see how it goes. Keep an eye on them. But the Kevin Hayes thing is definitely one that, like, I don't know what reason would justify that other than him missing like a really important meeting
like
or something.
Practice or meeting.
Yeah. Behind this, because why are you going to send shockwaves through your team and scratch like arguably your best forward?
The way he's been playing, it's like when I watch Flyers games, two of the guys that have been standing out the most have been Kevin Hayes and Konechny. Like obviously other guys have played well at times, like Cates has played well and Morgan Frost has played well. Lawton's shown at times, but it's like Hayes and Konechny, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure they're two. They might be top 2 in points, but they're up there.
Yeah,
sure.
they probably are. I think Hayes is 100% up there. And man, he's such a good guy too. Like he brings like this different vibe to the Flyers locker room that I think is good for them, just to like a calming presence, if you will. And it's just a bit of a shock to the team to do something like that. So I don't know. Definitely something behind the scenes that we probably aren't going to be privy to, but unfortunate to see that one go down.
Yeah. And storylines, like, man, some of these players that have been like going off this year. So you were just talking about it off air, but it's like, who honestly on their bingo card had Erik Karlsson, Rasmus Dahlin, and Josh Morrissey in top 3 for defense points? Like Morrissey has 36 points in 31 games as we're recording right now. Lucas, man, what are your thoughts on these guys just popping off this year? Like no Makar, no Fox, it's those 3.
Well, let's point out Fox and Makar are right after them.
Yeah,
but still, man, like these 3 guys, I mean, Erik Karlsson, if I told you would be first, you would have thought we were in what year, man? 10 years ago?
Yeah.
Or whatever, 7
years ago, yeah.
Whatever it was, man. Like Dahlin, I think a lot of good hockey people thought he had the ability to do something like this. I just don't know if they thought he would do it with the Sabres team that he's on currently constructed. I think they thought it would be a few years down the line. But great to see him up there. And like you said, Josh Morrissey, I think he's a big part of why Winnipeg's turned it around. He's obviously their number 1 D-man. And he's, you know, when those offensive weapons are clicking, he's a big part of feeding them the puck and getting it going. So
and just both sides of the ice, he's played well.
Oh yeah, man. Well, I always think about him from the World Juniors and like how dynamic he was for Canada. And so it's always good to see him playing well. Like I've always been a big fan of the player. I know we were talking about it off air too, from a fantasy perspective, unreal if you got him. It's good to see a player that I really liked when he came into the league doing well with Winnipeg in his prime.
Yeah. And honestly, there's just like certain storylines when obviously Karlsson has been that conversation because ever since he got traded from Ottawa to San Jose, he just never was the same. And obviously that had a lot to do with his injury stuff, but obviously also just opportunity. And I think we're finally seeing that, to flip it from a defenseman to forward here. Like Tage Thompson, are you freaking kidding me? So again, to give you guys context to listeners and people watching, he was on the top 3 stars again. And like I look at the guy and like when he was traded, and this is where at the time, and again, the Blues did win the cup and O'Reilly got the Conn Smythe. At the time, people said it was an absolute fleece job, like one of the biggest fleece jobs in a trade. It was one of the worst trades they'd ever seen. And now not only is Tage Thompson, like just a couple years later, essentially, way more productive than O'Reilly. Obviously, that has to do with age as well. But he's been more productive than Jack Eichel, like the Sabres star that went to Vegas and brought back now Tage Thompson's new buddy, Alex Tuck. And again, we just talked about like comparing situations. So like Eichel's still been very productive this year. He has 29 points in 29 points in 27 games. But Tage Thompson, just absolutely electric in the points conversation with guys like McDavid, Draisaitl, Kucherov. He has 49 points. 49 in 31 games. He is inching at almost a goal per game. 25 and 31. Lucas, man, did you ever in your wildest dreams see a player like Tage Thompson in the conversation of the top 100 points in the NHL, let alone the top 3?
I knew this guy was skilled, but come on. But I didn't think he was this good. Like I thought he was a good little player, but second line, decent little forward. No, this guy is a superstar. I think,
and not a little forward, man. He's massive with crazy skill.
Yeah, man. I think we're about to get to the point where people are talking about, oh, is he better than Austin Matthews? John, people are going to start saying that.
Bro, I've seen it, man. I've seen the banter because of the production, but it's like, this is why it's crazy, right? Because there's been individual plays with his hands and this is one of those stories where it's like, he always did have that certain skill set with the size. This guy's 6'7". I want people to remember this. He's 6'7" with this kind of skill set. Confidence, I'm telling you, was massive here. When Eichel, and we've seen it time and time again, Lucas. So I'm not saying that this was a predictable thing, but it was the chance for somebody to step up.
Confidence and opportunity.
Confidence and opportunity. I've seen it time and time again. When a guy gets traded, it just takes that one player that sees that alley, sees that path. And again, I always make it a Leaf thing. So I apologize to the listeners and viewers, but I cite an opportunity like a Tyler Bozak.
Yep.
The Leafs needed that center. Tyler Bozak stepped up right in between Kessel and Lupul. And obviously, look what Bozak ended up doing.
Nazem Kadri, when they were tanking and just following the tank job, Kadri comes up. He all of a sudden cements himself as a two-way forward, beast type player. And then look at the contract he's got.
Connecting to the Blues. Example. I mean, Robert Thomas taking an opportunity and going crazy with it. Like, you can go down the list of like so many other opportunities, but Tage Thompson to the absolute extreme because he truly didn't start going off until see you later, Jack Eichel. Yeah. And when Eichel was not in the picture, even a guy like Casey Middlestat started showing a little bit more production, but Tage Thompson was truly the guy that took it. And yeah, you never look back. I mean, like I said, the skill set was there, the size was there. Once he put all of that together, and then the crazy confidence, like the confidence he has to put on some of these moves, like the toe drags I've been seeing, like to take on 3 guys, even some of his his teammates tuck, but some of these tucks he's had around the net, like waiting out goalies, like it's been crazy to watch.
Man, he has some flair to his game that, and I know a lot of people are being careful with how they say this, but I've seen this take online, even from guys on the Chicklets pod, other people too, but that he's got some, personality to his game that's reminiscent of Mario Lemieux with certain things that he does because of the size of his whole body, right? Because of it's just unreal seeing the moves and the hands that he has for someone that large. We haven't really seen that ever. I mean, since a guy like Lemieux's size or Lindros's size, right? So it's really cool to see. John, how many goals, man? He's at 25 right now. How many is he ending the season with? Is he hitting 60? That's my question to you right now.
I don't think he's hitting 60 just because of
55.
The so crazy. He'll hit over 50. I think now, if I could make a pretty solid prediction without being boring and kind of looking at the situation of like who will finish as the top goal scorers, I would probably for sure have Tage in the top 5, but I think he's going to fall. I just can't see this pace continuing the whole year. And I also think ice time's a contributing factor here. I think when we look at other guys, so like, for example, I haven't pulled up here, like McDavid averages over 22, almost 23 minutes a night. Mm-hmm. Tage averages below 19 minutes a night. So I think also based on opportunity, if we go look at some of the other scorers in the league, I think a guy like Pasternak might rise up there, and I think Draisaitl will probably rise too. So if I can make a prediction, I'm saying Tage and Jason Robertson are probably battling for like a 4, 5, 6 spot. I would say Draisaitl and Pasta jump those guys. I think we get 40. Sorry, not 40. I think we get 4 50-goal scorers this year. 4.
So you got McDavid,
Draisaitl,
Pasternak.
Pasternak's gonna be a hot take. Yeah, I think he's for sure over 40.
Who's 4?
And then Thompson. Yeah, I think Tage. Thompson. I think Tage, just based on his pace, will hit 50.
So AM 34 ain't hitting 50.
No, I think I had Matthews as a lock for 50, but he's going to go on a stretch. We see it every year with Matthews. We saw it last year. I think Matthews will go on a stretch, but man, like he's at 16 right now.
Yeah, he's at half a goal a game, so he's at 41.
Yeah, so I'm thinking my perspective here is the rest of the season. If Matthews can get, I don't know, I think 30 goals for Matthews at this point, the rest of the way, is a pretty good bet. I think if anything, that's even a stretch because of I think the Leafs scoring will be more spread out. But I think 46 is a good bet for Matthews to finish the year. I think Matthews will be between 45 and 50 by the end of the year, I think.
Okay.
Do you have any other? No, bro, come against it.
Buddy,
Do you have any other
buddy.
guys that you think are above that, or you think Matthews is still above 50?
I think Matthews is getting 50. I really do, because the reason is, I mean, we haven't seen this sort of pace from him where he's below like this.
Yeah.
But I remember last year, and it was around January timing when the question started to come out, could Matthews hit 60? And I was on the fence saying, he's going to hit the 57, 58. He might do it, but I don't want to bet on it. And I had a colleague at work at a previous job ask me or try to bet with me. Let's bet 60 right now. You choose 60. I say he hits below. The guy was saying he'd hit below. And I regret that I didn't take that bet. So on this one here, I think he's hitting 50. I just think he's going to go on one of those runs, like you said, John, where it's like goal a game for in a 20-game stretch, he's going to score like 18, like something stupid. And all of a sudden he's in it. But regardless if he does or doesn't, I'm very confident he's going to be in the conversation of it, right? Like you said too, like high 40s, mid to high 40s.
And at this point, I'd also be shocked if McDavid doesn't get the Rocket, in my opinion. I just think going into the gear, and Draisaitl was making comments about it, is like his mentality, like there's so many opportunities. If you guys have watched McDavid the last couple of years, it's like this guy looks off easy goals or looks off goals in general so often. And obviously, like it ends up being a goal because he just gives the guy an easy tap in. Like how many times Oilers fans has McDavid given Zach Cassian when he was on the team a tap in? But my point is, I do believe McDavid went into this year with a different mindset. And I mean, based on pace right now, like 50, McDavid's probably going to hit 60 plus easy. So I do think, if he continues this mindset, continues obviously time on ice with where it's at, we're probably seeing a Connor McDavid finish with 140 points and 60 goals, which is nuts to say.
That's insane. But you're right, man. Like you're bang on. I think he's got the Rocket all but locked up. I think the people that are going to challenge him, like seriously contend with him, are already pretty far back to make up that ground, like a Draisaitl, being 7 back, like a Pasternak being 8 back, like to make up that ground on Connor McDavid is too much. I think
we could be wrong, but I mean, the McDavid kind of pace is just, I would say it's much more of a hot take to go under for a Connor McDavid pace than an over.
Yeah. I think like you said too, his mission was, people are talking like Austin Matthews is in the same stratosphere as me. I'm going to go steal his trophy next year. And that's what I think his off-season business was. So, other than that, like looking on the quick goal chart, I think that Ovechkin, I think age is
40 for sure.
Age is catching up in terms of hitting the 50-plus range. But, he'll hit 40 easy. Like you said, I like Draisaitl. I like McDavid for my 50-goal scorers. I like Draisaitl. I like McDavid. I like Robertson.
Yeah. Ovi could push for 52, more so because of the desperation to get the record, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's the only thing I could say. To me, if Ovi hits 50, I will be actually surprised. That's weird to say because it's Alex Ovechkin. It's Alexander Ovechkin, but I just think, even people have gotten on him for the empty net goals, which I'm not going to be one of those guys, but even Connect Me is pretty funny. But you know what? I think I don't want to be that guy on a pod that's going, we're going to see 8 50-goal scorers this year. Like, you know what, man, you look at the board right now, there's been a lot of goals scored and a lot of goals by individuals. I mean, you could make that take and based on percentage and based on trajectory right now. I mean, there's a lot of guys in that conversation. I'm sure there's a lot of Habs fans being like, Caulfield's over 40, pushing 50 goals this year. And you know what? The biases will be there. And I honestly don't think I could call any Habs fan that says that crazy because look at that. Caulfield's got 18 in 31 games. Like the scoring from individuals this year has been crazy. Like the fact that Nylander has more goals than Matthews, like Sid could get 40 plus goals this year. Like that's another one. Like Stammer, another candidate for 40 plus goals. Like there's so many guys that like,
man, don't scoff at Nylander for 40 plus now. He could be in there. He could be in there.
I mean, if I'm saying it for Caulfield, then Nylander.
I like Caulfield. I like Caulfield in there if he gets that ice time like up a little bit. I know he's always like lower on that totem pole when you compare him to the other goal scorers. But I was gonna say my hot take would be if he stays healthy, I like Mikko Rantanen to hit over 45. He's never done that before. I can see him doing that and really pushing 50. I know he's always been more of like he's interesting because I find he is sort of pass first sometimes, but I think right now he's shooting a lot more due to the options that he has and him having to carry the load. So I like Mikko Rantanen getting into the mid 40s.
Okay, so based on the number I just said, over under, if you had to throw a prop bet down or any kind of bet or a futures, I guess it's a futures bet. Are you over under 4.5 for 50 goal scorers this year? By the end.
Yeah. I'm gonna go just off instinct. I'm gonna take the under. I think there's gonna be a boatload of 40s.
Yeah.
But my 50s, like I said, are gonna be McDavid, Draisaitl, Robertson, and one out of Pasternak, Ovechkin, Rantanen, Matthews. I think Matthews might get in, and that'd be my 4, right? But like you said, that would be the prop bet right there. At 4.5, that's a tough line to pick between. But right now I'm going to take the under off instinct. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I picked 4. If Matthews goes on this crazy run and somehow gets there,
that'd be 5.
That'd be the 5 for me. I mean, again, maybe that's a little disrespectful to Jason Robertson because the pace he's been at, and if Jason Robertson's in there, then there's 6. But for me, we always get too swayed to one side
early on.
Yeah, early on when these streaks happen, and it's just like I don't want to hate on anyone. I don't want to discredit anyone, but just some of these paces are just not going to keep up. Like, maybe I'm stupid for saying this, but who really is counting on Bo Horvat to continue this goal per game streak? Like 22 goals in 30 games. We have to give him his creds. We have to give him his respect. But is he seriously going to continue that streak? I mean, hey, if Bo Horvat gets traded to the Avalanche, Bo Horvat's a candidate for 50 goals. As crazy as that sounds.
Yeah.
Like if Bo Horvat somehow was injected into the Avalanche offense on that number 1 power play and playing next to Mikko Rantanen, frig, man, Rantanen and Bo Horvat could be battling for 50 goal race.
Man, like you said, things, it usually works itself out to the means. And I think with Horvat having 9 assists, like, what is he, Cy Young right now? Like, what is this 22 and 9 stat line here? I just don't think that's going to hold up. But like you said, yeah, if he goes to Colorado, man, all bets are off, buddy. All bets are off for 50 goals.
Yeah. The only other 2 guys I want to give their cake or give respect to is Jake Gensel has 15 and 27 games. And we know he can get hot sometimes, especially if Sid's feeding him the puck. And the other guy would be Kaprizov. The Wild had a rough start to the year somewhat, and they've been better lately. Kaprizov can get that pace going. He's got 19 goals in 31 games right now. I see Kaprizov 1,000% getting at least 40 goals. I'd be shocked if he doesn't. So he'll be in that conversation again for the 40-plus goals. Could he get closer to the 50? But I think Kaprizov would be a lock for 40 goals for me. I would be shocked if he doesn't. All right, man. Anything else you want to throw out a hot take on the way out here, or any last couple takes?
No, I think we ran through it pretty well with the goal scorers. It's just interesting to watch it as the weeks go by. But I think some of these guys, like we were talking about with Auddie, like there's some frauds on here.
Yeah.
I know we were talking about teams in that regard, but in this regard, there's some frauds on here that are going to fade. And there's some guys like a Gensel shutout that you just made that are gonna pipe up this list real quick. So we'll keep an eye on it and see how it evolves. Maybe check back in a month or 2 and make our comments then.
Let's go. Well, I think Lucas and I will kind of play it by how we're doing with our families and friends and our plans. So we might have some kind of pod maybe around the start of World Juniors or maybe just before Christmas, but potentially no. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But either way, we'll post on socials. We'll let you guys know. But regardless, happy holidays for whatever you celebrate. We appreciate all the support on the podcast. Huge shout out to Auddie James for joining on this one. Just a short little represent. But yeah, Lucas, man, it's perfect time, man. I mean, we're going to get our 20th episode in around either prior to the new year or going to the new year. So that's kind of where we'll see where we're at in terms of the pod.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Happy holidays to everybody, all the listeners out there. And yeah, John, we did it, buddy. We made it through 2022. I mean, we're really close and 19 episodes down, really good to see that. Up. So 20 is on the way.
So thank you from Lucas, John, another episode of the Hot Take Hockey podcast. We appreciate the chats. Make sure you guys hit us up on socials, drop some comments on the YouTube. Make sure you listen on Spotify and Apple. We'll see all of you soon. Have a great one. Peace.